Welcome to this week's episode of the Baseball Together podcast, Baseball Family. This week we have trading cards and fake baseball. Right meow.
9 Plus Us presents the Baseball Together podcast with your hosts, Blackjack Brad and Kansas City Little Big Briggy Blue Eyes. And now, Baseball Together.
Welcome to this week's episode of the Baseball Together podcast, Baseball Family. I am Brad, and as always, I'm joined by our guy Brig. How are you this evening, Brig?
Hey.
Hey.
That's all.
Very good. Excellent. Now, well, spring training is in full swing, Brig, and that pun was not intended there, by the by.
Pretty good.
So we have lots of fake baseball to talk about. We have trading cards to talk about because there's been free agent signings, tradings, and all kinds of action and things going on. But before we get to any of that, there is news. There is new news to get to this week, things that you might not have heard and things that we kind of, I don't want to say glossed over last week because I don't know if we even glossed over things, but we just kind of didn't get to during our draft, which is fine.
Right.
It's fine because there's a show this week that we can get to that stuff. So here we go. Let's start off. First, Chris Sale of the Boston Red Sox. He missed a season because of Tommy John. Turns out now he's coming back and has a stress fracture in his ribs.
Don't forget that prior to that, he missed a season because he was terrible.
Well, there's that. Yeah. It was missing. Didn't miss the season, but he was definitely missing.
Yep. It's not the old Chris Sale.
No, and it's getting to be concerning with him because a guy of his stature sustaining these injuries, it seems like they're just going to build up and continue to build up, and he's going to be a shell of himself. It's going to be a problem for Boston.
Right. And a couple of years ago, when he was on, he was unbeatable. Literally, undeniably one of the best pitchers out. And now, dude can't even make it to the mound. Right? So, it's sad. Because during that same time, when he was off, boy, he was the worst. Like, bad.
Yeah, it was straight up MIA. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It was bad news bears. And the Red Sox, we'll get to it a little bit later, a little bit more, but they've loaded up. They're completely loaded up and ready to win. To have Chris Sale missing time and being a big fat question mark is trouble. Is going to be trouble for them, definitely.
Well, and we have some more pitchers still in free agency that we'll talk about in a little bit as well. So don't worry.
Yeah, and I know of another team that's looking for another pitcher, so it'll be interesting to see where those guys end up.
Yep.
But speaking of coming back, the World Baseball Classic is coming back, and we are pumped about this.
Oh, we love the World Baseball Classic.
We do so much, and I think I've talked about this before, that I was so out on it originally because I feel like international sports kind of get watered down a little bit, especially baseball. But man, it was exciting. It's exciting stuff, exciting baseball. If you haven't ever watched it, get in on it next year when it comes around. Not a whole lot of details yet, but we will definitely have them when they come. I'm assuming there's going to be a lot of games played in Miami because that's where they played a lot of them last time. Yeah. I'm really, really crossing my fingers, but not too tight, that they play some here in Phoenix.
That'd be awesome.
I'll be there. I don't care who's playing. I'll be there.
Yeah, that would be super awesome. I might travel to the Miami.
You should. Maybe I'll meet you there. I don't know. We'll see.
Yes.
Play it by ear.
I was hoping you'd say.
See how things go. So there was some. Is it disturbing news, Brig? Is it disturbing what came out?
Yeah.
This is today.
It is
today.
And I'll tell you why in a minute. But yeah, go ahead.
So a judge ruled that this letter talking about the Yankees and their sign stealing needs to be opened. It's been sealed. Major League Baseball sealed it. And there's kind of been rumblings about it, especially from Astros fans over the last few years saying, well, Major League Baseball has that letter with the Yankees about how they were stealing signs, but they won't show anybody. They know, but they're not punishing anybody. But here it comes. It's going to be opened. I feel like it's a little bit like the Chamber of Secrets. Maybe.
More like Pandora's box.
It could be. Yeah, you're probably right.
And here's why. Because why, other than for the pursuit of truth and knowledge, which I think is always worthy. Like, this is going to do nothing but besmirch baseball as a whole. Like, yes, it's going to make the Yankees look bad, and that does hurt my feelings. But overall, it's going to make baseball look bad. And that, first of all of you about to accuse me of homerism, let me just say that preserving the Yankees' reputation or whatever in some way is not worth hiding the truth. I don't believe in that at all. I think that the truth is more important. Baseball is more important than the Yankees as an organization, by the way. But this seems pointless because, I mean, outside of truth, like, and just being open and honest, which I think is worthwhile. But like, what other good are we going to get out of it? I don't know, because there's all this like no consequence thing happening.
Right. That's the big thing, is that like nobody can or will get fired over it.
Right. So it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
In that regard, like, it has no daily impact on anything.
Yeah. All it's going to do, like you said, is make baseball look bad, because like cycling, everybody used to watch the Tour de France every year. And if you didn't watch it, you're at least paying attention. And then you find out Lance Armstrong was a big fat cheater. And now it's like nobody cares, because
and his immediate 5 runners up or whatever.
Yes,
6.
That's what I was going to say. The biggest name and the next 10 to 15 guys behind him were also cheating.
Right.
So it's like nobody cares. Right? So how bad is it going to be for baseball that it's like the winner and the next 3 teams behind them were all cheating? And when it comes down to it, like, I've heard people say, like, well, it wasn't really cheating because they were just stealing signs. Like, well, okay, yeah, like stealing signs is like as much a part of baseball as pine tar and sunflower seeds, right?
Yeah, sure.
But it's also like, have some class when you do it. You know, I'm not really one for the unwritten rules, but at the same time, it's like, these were written rules saying specifically you cannot do this.
Incredibly clear. Yes.
And I don't know, it's going to be a really bad look for baseball, especially if the players start pointing fingers and be like, well, this team was doing it too, this team was doing it too. And it just becomes this widespread thing. And yes, baseball is taking a lot of steps, and we're going to get to some here in a minute, about things that teams are doing to prevent it, and the league is doing to prevent it. And we've actually seen on the college level to prevent it. But I don't know. A league that cheats is going to, that's what baseball is going to be known as, is the league that cheats.
Yeah, it is. And it already kind of is a little bit that way. I think because the failure to punish any of the players in 2017, right? That was what did it. And now it's like, oh, well, we can't trust you, right? So the detail I'm looking for when this letter is opened is whether it was supported by technology, which I'm sure it will say.
That's the key.
That's the key, right? And I'm sure it's going to say that. Otherwise, why would it be protected at any level at all? But let's just be clear that is the linchpin in the entire situation. Yeah. As far as like the legalities of, or the rule breaking or whatever. So I don't know. And I can't sit here and say that players who took performance enhancing drugs should not be allowed in the Hall of Fame, which I still firmly hold, and then turn around and say, yeah, but we shouldn't open that letter because it's just going to make baseball look bad. It's like, no, you can't have it both ways, Brig. And I got it. I know. That's why I'm like, if I had to choose one or the other, like, open the letter, like, we'll weather this storm. Just don't put those guys in the Hall of Fame.
Right. Well, and that's one of the things too, is that it's like, what, are people going to hate the Yankees more?
Right.
And I'm not going to
love them any less.
Yeah, exactly. Every Yankees fan is going to feel like even more of a martyr. Like, oh, my team.
Wait a minute.
How dare you? The winningest team in Major League Baseball history.
Oh, in history, that's true. Yeah, you're right about that.
So
that was a great
I don't feel like
caveat.
anything's really going to change other than outside perspective.
That's it. And it's just going to harm new fans coming in. And some of them who are on the fringe, who've been in a while, and they're already looking for excuses to forsake Major League Baseball. This is going to help them. And that's it. And you know what? That's okay. because it'll still survive. Everybody goes through ups and downs. Every organization, every entity, every sport, everybody. So it's just going to be okay.
Look, I'll tell you what, man.
Yeah.
A few years ago when the NFL was dealing with all that concussion stuff,
Yeah.
I gave that league 15 years.
Yeah.
And now it's a freight train with an endless track. I feel like baseball can still come back.
Oh yeah.
Despite everything, that it can still come back and be one of the top two sports. You know, the NBA has its issues. Soccer's, I always talk about it all the time. Like, soccer's thriving, but
Yeah.
I don't know that it'll ever reach the level of baseball and even hockey. You know,
Yeah.
but no, I feel like baseball can still come back to be a top two sport in America. So
we've got to get rid of toxic leadership first.
yeah.
And that means club level. And blackouts. Yeah. 100%. We have to make the game more accessible to as many people as possible. And we have to make sure that it's unified in its presentation from start to finish, top to bottom. That means competitive imbalance has to be taken care of. That means that any opportunities to cheat are met with harsh punishment. We just need to preserve the game, and that is a leadership decision, and it's going to trickle down. And right now, that's not what's happening. So we just call it what it is. Baseball needs to change some things, and it's working on those changes, but some of the core things aren't happening. Like, we can't have Rob Manfred as the guy in charge anymore.
Well, right. So this is not on the lineup here, Brig, but I'm going to go a little bit off here. Speaking of Rob Manfred, though, that he said specifically that he needs to work on his relationship with the players. And I skimmed through an article today that said that players are like, sorry, buddy, the damage is done.
Yeah, it's over.
Like, there's no repairing it because he was such a scumbag during the lockout. And I don't blame him. I'd be the same way. Like, there are certain bosses where something happens and you're like, no.
That's it.
Yeah.
So, it's over. It's over forever.
Yeah, it is. And I think that the owners need to see that. They need, and I say this all the time too. Man. The MLB needs to take a page out of the NBA's book as far as commissioner-player relations goes.
Yeah.
Because Adam Silver's got it figured out. And things are pretty smooth in the NBA as far as that goes.
They are.
So
yeah, they really are.
I don't know if it's like Rob Manfred needs to throw a barbecue or something, or what, like have the guys everybody over for a barbecue, or just resign or get fired.
He needs to get out.
Getting fired is going to be the answer.
That's the key. He needs to leave Major League Baseball. We need, and I think it'll be like changing managers. It's going to be just like changing managers, where you're going to do one of two things. You're either going to bring in somebody who's a like the perfect candidate, where everybody had all high hopes and it works out and whatever, right? Or we need a short-term interim solution that will help us bridge the gap from damage control about Rob Manfred and taking that 1 or 2 or 3 years or whatever to redefine what right looks like and restructure our ideal so that we can then execute that ideal with the right candidate. So I don't know which direction it's going to go. Maybe there are already rumblings among the owners. I don't know. All I'm saying is I think it needs to happen soon, real soon.
Yeah, it really does need to happen soon, for sure.
Anyway, we beat that all the time.
We do, yes. So this year, with the new CBA, there are some potential rules coming back. One of them, there were flares shot in the air and confetti thrown when we found out that there would be no more 7-inning doubleheaders and no more ghost runners during extra innings. Well, hold off on that confetti gun there for just a little bit, because we might be getting ghost runners back in an extra inning.
Start picking up the confetti.
Yeah.
Get your dustpans out.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and this is the thing, it's the players initiating this, saying, you know what, we don't like extra innings so much. We don't like 17, 18 innings. I don't blame them. I think I've told this story before. I was covering our college baseball team, Brig, and one of the guys came in who had pitched for the team before, and we got to like the 13th inning. He's like, man, if I was pitching this game, it'd be over. Like, what do you mean? Because you get into the 11th, 12th inning, I'm going to groove one for you so this game can end, because I am not sticking around. I'm sorry. We'll come back and we'll play tomorrow and we'll sort it out then.
Yeah.
So, and you know, these guys are all hyper competitive, and I don't feel like when you get to the pro level, you're willing to do that. But at the same time, you're like, let's do something to figure this out because it's a long time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's super long. And I don't blame the players for feeling that way. I just think a runner on second during extras is like, I just think it's the wrong answer. That's all.
I do too because it's a little league rule, and it needs to
Yeah.
stay in little league, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen the home run derby solution because that's what they're going to be doing in the All Star game this year, probably. If it goes
Probably.
into extras, go into a home run derby, which would be fantastic. I've seen legitimate sudden death, which would be so exciting, so exciting.
Oh,
Flip a
man.
coin, offense, defense, and you get one shot.
Yeah.
That would be awesome. That would
Pick
just
your
be
player. Kind of
yeah,
like a shootout or a what do they call it in hockey?
yeah, shootout. Yeah,
Shootout. Yeah, thanks. I was like,
yeah.
what am I saying?
No, like that would be really cool. But I'd like you
Yeah.
not to play 2 or 3 extras before you get to that point. So
Yeah. Give me two or three extras. That's how I feel. We've talked about that before. Yep.
we
I
have.
agree.
We definitely have. Yep.
So let me
Um,
switch gears on us. Pitchers and catchers have decided to or have been testing new audio equipment for preventing sign stealing with the added benefit of speeding up the game. Speaking of speeding up the game.
mhm.
And what they're doing is the catcher will have a device transmitting audio tones to a speaker or bone conduction. I don't remember, or I didn't get into the details of exactly how the technology specifically works, but it's a way to conduct an audio tone from the hat of the pitcher on the mound to his ear so that what he can do is gain, so the catcher can communicate, okay, I want this pitch and I want it in this location. And they can be doing that while the ball is running around the field and a play's being wrapped up or whatever. And that is intending to, like, the intent is to not only cut down on sign stealing or eliminate it completely, but like I said, that should speed up the game. That's
Mhm.
super exciting. And I like, this is a cool use of technology.
It
This makes
is.
sense to me.
It is. And if you've watched any college baseball this year, you probably noticed that they're doing this there because you'll see guys with like these big fat belt, what looks like big fat plastic belt buckles, and actually what it is it's a play card. And the catch, I think actually every player has it, where they have it's a card for every pitcher. So they know the pitch, the location, everything. And then I've noticed catchers have earpieces, and some of the pitchers do too. Sometimes the pitchers will look down at their arm, and I don't know if there's like some kind of electronic thing on their arm or whatever on like a armband, but they all
Yeah.
have them, and it's really interesting because I mean obviously like we talked about it's preventing sign stealing and starting at that level, if these guys come into the minors and they're like, well, we don't have electronic signs,
Yeah. That's a
you
good
know?
point. Yeah. I didn't think about it that way.
So I think it's smart of those guys to start doing it there and then moving on up the ranks with it because it will speed up the game for sure. It
Yeah.
definitely will. And we won't have this whole thing with the Yankees going on either or the Astros and Red Sox,
The Red
whoever
Sox
else
or
is
whatever.
doing it.
Yeah.
So
Right.
awesome. But speaking of experiments, we love the Petri dish of the Atlantic League.
Who
Love
don't?
it. It's so fun. So this year they're going to be testing a couple of new things with the advent of the universal DH. There's been a lot of talk about how that takes away a lot of strategy. One of the suggestions is what's called the double hook. Basically, your DH is tied to your starting pitcher. Once you pull that starting pitcher, you lose the DH. Your relievers have to hit, or you put in pinch hitters. I like the idea a lot. As much as I love the DH, this is a great idea, and they're experimenting with it in the Atlantic League this season. And then the other, oh my gosh, Brig, I am so wild and crazy about
Please,
this idea
please
so
explain
much.
it because it's so good.
It's so good. So it's called the dropped pitch rule. Now, what this is, we've talked about this before. Actually, a couple of years ago, we weren't real sure about it when we talked about it, but I think we understand what's going on here. So basically, it's the drop third strike rule, but it's on every stinking pitch. And you said it doesn't matter if there's somebody on first base, right?
That's exactly right. Yeah, a
Yeah.
runner can be occupying first base for all of this to still apply.
So it's an 0-1 count, and got runners on first and second. You got the ball goes to the backstop on a wild pitch, everybody's moving up, including the batter. The batter's heading to first base. I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
Because this is the thing, is that a lot of the complaints that I hear with robo umpires is, well, it takes away the catcher's framing. Like, I guarantee you, a lot of catchers don't really care too much. Like, yeah, like
it's a thing they got to do.
Right. I would rather try to block the ball with nobody on base than try to focus on framing pitches, because I had more fun blocking pitches even with nobody on base than I did trying to snap my wrist and frame pitches, because so often it doesn't work. You're not going to get the call anyway, that it's like, what's the point? But man, make the catcher work in this area instead, and you got yourself a ball game. Think it like it's moving all the time.
All the time. And that's the thing, is there's going to be really very little downtime on the field. The other thing too is they're hoping to make sure that pitchers are far more precise, so that there's fewer wild pitches, there's less of a chance that guys get hit. All kinds of things benefit from this opportunity, because if a guy ducks under a pitch, so the rule stipulates that the ball has to pass, the catcher has to miss it midair. So it can't have you can't bounce one in the dirt and goes the backstop.
Well, I don't think you would anyway.
Well, I'm just saying, like, yeah, if it was weird.
Think about this though, like you talked about, like,
ball or something.
If you've got a batter up there and you throw behind him to send a message, like that goes away. That goes away.
Yeah.
Because he's on first base anyway.
Dude stole first base because you had a bone to pick. Yeah.
So
no, it's awesome.
I think it's great. I think it's an awesome rule. I would love to see it come to Major League Baseball. And I mean, people are tired of the strikeout home run thing. This would get rid of it tomorrow.
This well, or we would get nothing but strikeouts and home runs, right? Because guys would end up tightening things up so much. But then this one opportunity, think about it. Okay, I was imagining it. What if you're sitting there and a ball goes behind the guy, or it's wild? It just gets away from the pitcher a little bit, right? Just enough. And the batter stands there and watches it, because that's what they do now. They just stand there and they watch it go back, and then they kind of rest the bat on their shoulder and they kick their spikes a little bit, and they fiddle with they pull a Garcia Parra with their gloves, and and they just a bunch of scratching and spitting, and that's it. But can you imagine the uproar from the fan base if they did that? And this rule is in place. They'd be like, "What are you doing?" And there's so much screaming, and everybody
the dugouts screaming and everything, and like it's made on the defensive side. Everybody's like first base, first. Like it would be absolutely insane just on a wild pitch with nobody on base.
Insane. It takes everything and it dials it right up. I think it's great. If it came to Major League Baseball, I would be very happy. I
would be too. It would be absolutely outstanding. I think it would be fun. I love the double hook with the DH. I think that's an awesome rule. It adds so many layers of strategy. So
that's right.
I'm curious to see how those go in the Atlantic League. So let's take a quick break. Before we do, we have a couple shout outs we need to give. We've been talking about Patreon, how it is the newest and easiest way for you to support the podcast. We have a couple new patrons. We want to give a shout out to Jason D'Agostino, our close friend of the show, and also Alexander Trout, who's been with us since pretty much day one, right?
Day one, Alexander Trout's been with us. He's an OG baseball family member, for sure.
He is, for sure. Thank you for joining the Patreon and supporting the podcast. You too can join, be one of our rooters. Head over to patreon.com and search for Baseball Together, or you can hit the link down in the description of every podcast episode on whatever podcast platform you listen on, or on YouTube, and head over there. We have $5, $10, $15 per month available there on Patreon with different fun perks just for you. Let's take a quick break. When we get back, we're going to talk about baseball trading cards in real life.
No matter which ballpark you're at, you want to rep your team. Now you can with 9+ Us. Welcome to the Big City Series. With every design available in your team's colors, you can fit in with the home crowd or stand out on the road. Either way, we have the colors you crave. Shop the Big City Series and find designs that rep your favorite baseball podcast, cheer from the cheap seats, and much more. Shop the Big City Series only at 9plusus.com.
The Not Another Sports Podcast is the home of sports talk for everyone. Every other week, you can catch David and Jason as they talk about all things sports, from current events to classic moments and everything in between. You can find the Not Another Sports Podcast on Anchor.fm, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, and more. Please don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review.
Baseball family, we're back, and we are getting into free agent frenzy. This is where we get to watch people trade baseball cards in real life, in the IRL, in the IRL. it's cray town. It's totes, magotes, nutsos. I just made all that up. This is so much fun, though, because some of our favorite players no longer play for some of our favorite teams, and some of our least favorite players, this is a tease, no longer play for our favorite teams. That's very exciting.
You're right. It is.
So,
very good. So,
how do you feel about overall, Brad? How do you feel about all of what has happened with the free agents since the lockout ended?
It was a little slow to be there at the beginning, and it was a little disappointing. Like, well, shoot, like the way that it was before the lockout, and I wasn't expecting it to be exactly the same. I wasn't expecting it to be like everybody within 3 days getting on a team, because they were up against a deadline. They're up against a hard deadline for the guys who wanted to get their deals done.
Yep.
And these guys, I feel like it was one of those things where they're basically like, the longer I hold out, the less time I have to spend at spring training. I've been training this whole time. I'm good to go.
Right.
Well, give me a week of games and I'll be fine. So.
Which I think is mostly true.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's going to be 100% true for everybody, but I think largely that's the case.
Yeah, because we talked about how Brian Snitker doesn't even like spring training.
Exactly.
I'm sure that there are players who feel the same way.
For sure. How could there not be? I'll tell you, when all this set off, I was like, okay, no, but so you still don't care? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like, you just, what did you enjoy not having to do your job ever? Ownership and teams and like what? And that really bummed me out, honestly. Like, talk about like a meta sort of response to this was, oh, okay, so you still don't care, right? And that really bugged me.
The one thing that really surprised me is that I was expecting there to be deals like the day of, because I was like, there's still backdoor conversations, absolutely. Totally. But as it turns out, there weren't. I guess everybody was following the rules.
Or they were saving face.
Yeah, they could have been. Yeah. And
some of those names that you'd expected to go before the lockout didn't, like Correa. And that's, to me, was...
Well, I think Correa had a plan the whole time. Like, let's talk about him real quick, because during the lockout, he fired his agent and hired Scotty B. But he is now represented by Scott Boras. And that is, honestly, I think a really big deal, because he got him, I feel like, exactly what he wanted. Yeah. I think when it came down to it, the market for Correa was not nearly what he wanted it to be. He went to Minnesota, of all places, got $105.3 million over 3 years with 2-player options.
Right.
So he basically has 3 one-year deals with the Twins. And I think what it is Boras is like, hey, you had a couple of years with injuries. Yeah. Teams are not as hot on you as they should be. Let's have a prove-it year this year. But nobody's going to want to sign you to a 1-year deal. So have a prove-it year. You have another year of injury, you're good to go for 2023. Have a prove-it year that year. And whenever he's ready to go, he can. He can go sign that big deal, because he's only 27.
Right, exactly right. Yeah.
So they knew what they were doing for sure. Minnesota is nothing more than a tryout for him for the rest of the league, just like this last year was.
For the rest of his career. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
So I think that's why he didn't sign before.
I think that's good. I like that. That's really cool. Okay, so let's get into a couple others big names and some of the teams associated with the Associated goings on. Let's start with Trevor's story. He ended up in Boston, of all places. I'm terribly worried about this, but I know he doesn't have as much range as he used to, so they're going to move him to second base.
Well, and I think part of that too is that they're all full up at shortstop and third base.
Sure enough, they are.
Denver.
Yeah.
You got all stars over there. What are you going to do?
You can't move Cabbage Patch out. No way.
Yeah, you're not going to do that. No. And initially, I think that Story was saying he wasn't going to switch positions, but I think it's one of those things where it's like, well, how much are you willing to pay me? You know, like my dad used to say, some guy walked into the garage one day. He's like, hey, you having a garage sale? I was like, well, how much you want to pay for anything? It's all for sale. Just depends on how much you want to pay for me.
That's right.
You know? So I think like the price is right for Story.
Yeah, I think that it worked out nice for the Red Sox and it worked out nice for Trevor. I'm actually really excited about it. I think the Red Sox are going to get the better deal out of this than Trevor is, but I think that if he can settle in and prove himself, he's going to have a really good opportunity in Boston. And I think the fan base will really warmly accept him if he does well. If he does not do well with the position change, I think they're going to eat him alive.
Right. Yeah. It could be a really hard time for him.
Yep.
I don't know. The Red Sox are scary on paper, though. That's what worries me, is that I've been saying Mariners 2023 in the World Series, but this has me really questioning that.
No, don't. He said impotently. Okay, let's move on. Other notables, Boston picked up James Paxton. They re-signed Jackie Bradley Jr., and Rich Hill is on his way to Boston as well. I thought those were interesting.
They traded for Jackie Bradley Jr. They traded and brought him back.
But, right, but he came back.
Yeah. Anyway, he's back. I think that's the biggest deal for them. James Paxton has been injury prone the last couple of years. He's coming off Tommy John.
Yeah.
He might be a good fifth starter for them. Might be a bullpen arm. I don't know how they're going to use him.
Bullpen arm. Watch.
Most likely.
Especially as the season progresses, he'll spend more time in the bullpen. I think if they make it into October, he's not going to be a starter by then.
Oh, certainly not. No. And Rich Hill, he's a good piece. He's a good piece for them.
Yeah, it's
portfolio
work.
I think Boston definitely got better, though.
They 100. Did.
So
100. Okay, let's move down south just a little bit to the Yankees. New York Yankees, they re-signed Anthony Rizzo and brought in Josh Donaldson. So first of all, let's talk about first base, okay? Rizzo's in again. That means Luke Voit was needing to be out. He's out now. But there was some issues at spring training, apparently, where Voit was pouting and maybe being a little bit of a poo-poo face and to some of the prospects. Rizzo called him out. And yeah, and we always say that as the X Factor Clubhouse guy, Rizzo always brings that to the table. So, and then within about, 3 minutes, Luke Voit was gone.
It was like off to San Diego, not just like across the division, across the country, and into a different league.
Yeah, like go play DH somewhere else, homie.
Yeah, exactly. They didn't want any of that noise. No. And then the Yankees trade for Josh Donaldson and send Gary Sanchez?
Yes!
That's a good deal. That's a really good deal.
Josh
Donaldson's not what he was, but man, it's still a great bat to have in the lineup. And he crushed a ball the other day in his first spring training at bat. Just absolutely.
It's a great bat to have. He's another X Factor Clubhouse guy. He's going to bring leadership. He's going to bring maturity. He's going to ground this ball club. And I think working with Anthony Rizzo and some of these other guys that are really experienced at this point are going to be great for this younger club.
Yep. Yeah. And, that's we gave Brig a hard time last week during the draft, but honestly, Brian Cashman says that this is a good team, and I'm inclined to agree with him. They got better by getting rid of Gary Sanchez and bringing in Josh Donaldson.
Yep. And I've always been a Luke Voit fan. Always have been. I think he's great, but I wish him the best in Slam Diego. I really do. But it's going to be good to have. He's inflammatory. He just is, and so I wonder if that's not a clubhouse cohesion thing. And obviously, we saw that it was. So,
well, and there were issues last year when Rizzo got brought in.
Yep.
You know, he was vocal saying, if I'm not going to play first base here, send me somewhere else to play first base. And
okay.
I get it. And so they did.
Done.
So, good for him. He's expected to DH and play first base in San Diego.
I was shocked that Anthony Rizzo stuck around in New York, though, just because I thought he was absolutely miserable last year.
He looked like it. He sure looked like he was not having fun. And he seems to me like a guy who has to have fun regardless of where he plays.
Yep. And he could have ended up back in Chicago, but he didn't, and I'm shocked.
Yes. That's the crazy thing is that, so we were talking to Denise about this, the host of our North Chicago Baseball Together podcast, and it sounded like Hoyer offered, Rizzo, Bryant, and Baez offered all those guys more money than they got.
Yep.
So I wonder if there is an issue in the front office there. Because I know in Seattle not all the players are super high on Jerry Dipoto, and I think he knows that. I think he understands, it's a front office and players thing. He was a player, he understands it. But sure. I don't know if Jed Hoyer gets it. And maybe that could be an issue.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think that's a good point. And Denise is always great. If you're interested in Chicago and the Chicago baseball scene, you got to listen to Denise talk about it. She's spot on.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. So Luke Voigt, we got through that. Michael Pineda, let me just stay here for a minute. A name I'm sure you did not expect to hear ever again. He's going to play in Detroit maybe for a year, maybe, where he may or may not be surrounded by Vaseline. We don't know. Going to be interesting.
Vaseline, pine tar, spider tack, you name it. He's probably got it somewhere on his person as he's making $5.5 million.
Oh, that's just funny. Okay, let's move on. Jock Peterson goes to San Francisco on a 1-year, $6 million deal.
What do you think
of this? Huh?
You think he'll still wear the pearls?
Well, I don't know.
You don't mess with the streak. I would if I were him. That would be like my new thing.
Well, I would too, but I don't know if he will.
In fact, you know what, Brig? That's caught on. The pearls have caught on. I was at Topgolf last week with work for a work thing, and there were in the next bay over, there were these kids who were on a baseball team, and 2 of them were wearing pearls.
Really?
True story. Yeah.
Whoa, that's okay.
Yeah,
if that's the case, then you have to keep going.
He has to. It's become his thing.
Huh. I did not know that the kids were wearing pearls. Obviously here they were, but
yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah. I thought it was pretty funny seeing those. And they were like 14, 15 wearing pearls. But
I love it.
No, I think that's a good pickup for the Giants.
And a 1-year deal, no pressure. For $6 million, it's not a big deal.
Yeah, exactly. And we expected them to step back this year because they lost some guys, but I think that they've kind of made the moves that they need because they got Rodon as well.
That's right. And I think we expected them to take a step back because of Buster Posey, but now we're like, maybe we don't have to,
Yeah, and they lost Chris Bryant too.
They sure did. Chris Bryant went to Colorado. Chris Bryant's going to Denver.
So, okay, 7 years, $182 million to play left field and hit home runs. Like, that's what this deal is. Now,
all he's supposed to do.
Think about this, though. This is the way I see this is that the Rockies are making an investment. That's all this is. He is going to put some butts in seats.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to want to come in and see a World Series champion, all-star. They're going to get it.
Yeah.
However, in 3 years, when he says, I'm really sick and tired of not winning, they're like, okay, we'll trade you for a haul of prospects.
That's true.
That's what's going to happen.
I'll bet you're right.
Call him a shot right
here. Right. Okay. Brad's got it. So, 7 years, $182 million. That's the crowning jewel right now of the lineup in Denver's last 8 seasons. Just kidding. But That's kind of how it feels.
I mean, it's crazy though because they signed Nolan Arenado to that deal, and then we're like, oh shoot, buyer's remorse, trade him.
Sorry, man.
Off to St. Louis, and then they tell Trevor Story, we're not going to extend you, but we'll trade you, and then they don't, and he rightfully pouts the rest of the season.
Right.
So I don't know what was said in the meeting with Chris Bryant other than we're going to pay you a whole bunch of money to come play for us.
Yep.
A bunch of guaranteed money at that.
Please come and hit home runs in the easiest place ever to hit home runs, and we're going to make it as easy on you as possible. And anyway,
especially for a right-handed batter.
Yeah, so I'm excited to see that. Frederick. Let's talk about Frederick for a minute. Frederick Freeman is now in
LA.
Like they needed another thing. Like it's like this is like the kid whose parents buys him everything and they're available. And he's emotionally well balanced. And he drives a Lexus bicycle or whatever. I don't know. It's like, why? If I was Freddie and I wanted to win baseball games, I would go to LA. That's exactly what I would do.
Yes, for sure. He signed a deal, 6 years, $162 million. The Braves were not going to give him a sixth year. They wanted to give him 5 years, and I think that was the deal breaker there, the deal maker with the Dodgers. And it seemed like nobody else was willing to give him a sixth year either. So, and this is a little out of character for the Dodgers, I feel like, because they have not been willing to give these quote unquote long-term deals to their players because they don't want to be tied up to somebody when they're past their prime. Well, apparently Mr. Frederick Freeman is the guy for them, and that could be the scariest lineup we've seen in baseball. I heard somebody this week comparing them to the Big Red Machine.
Oh, seriously?
That was the last time we saw a lineup this potent, and that includes the late 90s Yankees.
Right.
That's a pretty big deal.
Does that go up against Murderer's Row? Now, it is baseball analysis time at this house. I'm going to get my geek on so hard. It's going to be so great. Stay tuned for next week when Brig goes crazy telling you all the things.
It could though, right?
It could. It really could.
Like, especially so think about this, that was an offensive power in an age when there were no offensive powers.
That's right.
And this is an offensive juggernaut in an age among offensive powers.
Yeah.
So who wins the home run derby? I'm going to put my money on the Dodgers.
You mean the season-long one? Like the real one?
Well, I mean, you put them on the field together. You have the Dodgers lineup against the Yankees lineup in a home run derby. I would take the Dodgers.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And maybe even
I don't know. Did you hear KB went to Denver?
That's one guy.
You don't know what he's capable of. He never played in Denver, okay?
No, that's a scary lineup, though. That's a really scary lineup for the National League West. San Diego, though, when San Diego plays LA, that's must-see TV.
Oh, yeah.
Tune in your MLB TV to those games. There's going to be a lot of them.
Yep. I agree.
Love it.
It's going to be awesome. It's going to be so good. Okay. Jorge Soler goes to Miami, $36 million for 3 years. That's a good pickup for Miami, but that's do what pickup. With? Yeah, I don't know. So we'll see.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting because what's going on in Miami, nobody knows except for the World Baseball Classic in 2023. We think. Matt Olson got traded to Atlanta. There's an extension signed, $168 million, 8 whopping years on top of that contract. Holy moly.
That's an outstanding pickup.
That's when we knew Frederick was leaving.
Yes. When the Braves had officially given up on Freddie Freeman, they traded for Matt Olson. And this is a better deal for the Braves. This is a little more team-friendly compared to what he was asking for.
Totally.
You look at annual average value, it's lower. And he's younger.
Yep.
I like Matt Olson a lot. I'm really, really, really happy he's out of the AL West because the dude mashes.
Well, he's not a defensive liability at all.
No, he's great. He's great at first base.
So that'll be great.
We did a comparison a few weeks ago where he actually had a better year this last year than Freddie Freeman did.
That's right. So Kenley Janssen also got picked up in Atlanta, and there's an interesting story behind this. It's a $16 million 1-year deal. Now he's 36 years old, and he's from Curacao. Here's the cool thing, and he's got a heart condition, right? So 36, heart condition, but he's from Curacao. And guess which team he grew up rooting for?
Probably the Braves.
The Braves. Yep.
That's cool.
So that he said that it was his decision. He got a text message from Dave Roberts, and Dave said, "Are you coming back?" And essentially he said, "No, I'm going to go with Atlanta." So it was a lot of his decision. I think he would have stayed in, what I read was he would have stayed in LA had they given him the deal he wanted. I don't think they were able to agree to quite the terms that everybody needed for what will likely be his last year in baseball.
So he's 34.
Oh, I thought he was 36.
No, he's 34. So he could have a couple more years. I don't know that he necessarily will, though, because I feel like that heart condition has really taken a toll on him the last few years. He's blown a lot of saves.
So.
Been kind of an issue there in LA. And so I'm not surprised they didn't bring him back on the kind of money that he wanted, especially a $16 million deal.
Yeah.
But I think obviously it depends on the kind of year he has. If he goes to Atlanta and he lights out, he's a great setup man, or he's a great closer for them. I'm sure they'll bring him back for one more year on a team-friendly deal, and he'll take it.
Yep, for sure. But that's it, though. That's probably as much as we'll see out of him.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I feel like, I don't know. It's just cool that he gets to play for the team he grew up rooting for, and I think he's excited about that.
Yeah.
So in Philadelphia, moving back up north, Nick Castellanos gets signed to Philadelphia. $100 million, 5-year deal, and they also picked up the Schwarbs. Kyle Schwarber is going to be playing in Philly now.
So I love Nick Castellanos to Philly, by the way. Like, that's an outstanding deal. That's a team-friendly deal. $20 million a year for him. But I saw somebody the other day said that Dave Dombrowski got confused when he heard that there was a universal DH, that it's just one player as the DH in the lineup, not a whole lineup of DHs. That's what they have. Everybody on that team. But they've got to make up for deficiencies in the bullpen, so I get it. You've got to score a bunch of runs throughout the game so your bullpen can't blow it. Right?
Yeah, that's 100% accurate.
If you've got 9 guys who can hit, 6 of them are going to hit every night, or 100%. At least 3. So
3 at least. Yeah, exactly. No, it's fun. It'll be fun to watch Philly this year, and I think that, like you said, they're just going to be run producers.
Yeah,
if they all stay healthy, they'll just rake.
They're going to be in shootouts every single night.
Yeah.
Those guys are going to have to just. And I think they're going. That's a great.
It's going to be so fun.
It'll be a blast.
It'll just be like carpet bombing out there every time Philadelphia is in town. Just like go to the bomb shelter. So let's talk about the Cubs for a minute. The Cubs picked up everybody else. First of all, it was this laundry list of players that were good, that have been really good in the past and were really decent like a couple of years ago. Brad, you made that comment earlier. I loved it.
Definitely peaked 3 years ago. Every single one of those
guys. Like my favorite pickup of theirs is David Robertson. David Robertson's a national treasure. For those of you who are new to the show, it's an entirely true statement I just made. But they got Marcus Stroman and Sia Suzuki. Those are the 2 big kind of impact signings for them. Brad, tell us about Suzuki, why you're excited about him, and a little bit of detail, because I think people need to know who he is.
So he is a really big deal. He's awesome. The Mariners were in the running. They were one of the last 4 teams that he was considering. And honestly, a lot of people have said that he's going to be better than Ichiro because he's willing to hit for power. That he can hit for average, but he is also willing to hit those home runs that are a major part of the game right now.
Yeah.
And from what I think it's Denise who told us that he talked to Yu Darvish
Yeah, he did.
Because he's like, where would be a good landing spot? And he said that Chicago would be a good place to go. I think the fans are going to love him there. He's obviously got a sense of humor. He picked number 27. Somebody asked him in his press conference why, and he said, without his translator, without his interpreter, he took the mic and he said, "Mike Trout, I love you." It's really cool to see the first generation of guys who grew up watching Mike Trout come into the league. It's fun to watch that stuff. And the Cubs, even if they stink this year because everybody's past their prime, they're going to have a lot of fun watching Suzuki.
I agree with you. He's from Japan, for those of you guys that don't know. He plays outfield, third base, and shortstop, depending on which channel you're watching and which language you speak. Yeah, he's an athlete. The dude is he started his professional career at 18 years old, which happens more often in Japan than it does here, first of all. And he is very young. This will be his age 26/27 season. So
he's about the same age
he's 27. Yeah, 27.
He's the same age Ichiro was when he came over then.
Yeah. So
you'll have a good 13 years with him probably.
Yeah. So we're excited about it. It's going to be fun to watch. He's getting a lot of hype like Wander Franco did, and we know what happened there. So we'll see. But yeah, he's a big deal in Japan, and this is more of that international hype I think Major League Baseball needs right now, and that's really good.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go over to the Mets. Max Scherzer signs the Mets. I'm laughing at my note here. And then
ready to met his orange bed.
Yeah.
So this is a deal that went down before the lockout, right?
You better explain the idiom though. It's a little phrase.
So anytime anybody in sports messes up, they refer to him as wetting the bed, right? Well, the Mets do it so often, we figure we just give them the name that they get the verb. They met the bed.
They met the bed. And we're so sorry.
Put that on a t-shirt.
Yeah, we should. It's so good. We should do that actually. But it's a $130 million 3-year deal. They also picked up Starling Marte to kind of round things out. Mr. Cohen over there is not afraid to spend big, fat change. This dude is throwing dollar bills at everything that moves.
I think they call the fourth tier of the luxury tax, of the competitive balance tax. I think they're calling it the Cohen tax.
The Cohen tax.
Because that dude is like writing checks left and right because he doesn't care. He doesn't care,
man. He's like 50%. I don't care. What's a 50% luxury tax? It doesn't matter. It's great. I got the money. I beat J-Lo. Everything's good.
That's all he cares about.
Excuse me. Let me just be clear to anybody listening. He didn't actually physically assault J-Lo. He just owns the team. And
because
she doesn't.
For those who don't remember, J-Lo and A-Rod were considering putting together a group. This is the thing that's crazy to think about, Brig, is that A-Rod and J-Lo, two of the absolute richest, I shouldn't say richest, but richest people in like celebritydom.
They're wealthy together, yes.
The two of them together needed a group of several more people to try to buy the Mets. And Steve Cohen comes in here and he's like, "You want check or cash?" Like, that's how much money this guy has
to buy the team, and now he's spending money outside of what is considered even reasonable, let alone rational, to win baseball games and win them aggressively. I'm very excited. I've been talking about the Mets for months, and I am really excited to see what happens because I think it's going to be good for baseball. I think he's becoming sort of this like money gremlin, like spendthrift, averse. He's not thrifty at all. He's like, I am going to do anything I have to do to win. And if I have to be the bad guy to do it, I'll do it. And I don't care about your kids. He doesn't care about your kids. He wants to bring it home. He wants to park a ship in the harbor.
A schooner. Anyway, but no, that's Starling Marte. Real quick, that Starling Marte deal is outstanding. He is a great hitter who is going to do great things for the Mets. Even if they just have him as their DH, like, he is a scary hitter. That is an outstanding. I am stoked for the Mets to have picked up Starling Marte because that was one of those under the radar ones that I was like, if the Mariners bring him in, that would be pretty awesome to have that bat. But man, the Mets got him, and it'll be interesting to see if they do actually met the bed this year and don't even make.
I don't think they will. I don't think they're going to met the bed this year. And if they do it this year, they won't next year. You watch.
We'll see. They got 3 years of Scherzer and 2 more years of DeGrom because he's already said he's going to opt out. I think it's after 2023 he's going to opt out.
Yeah, 2 years. I think it is what it is.
So, yeah. So they got to do it this year or next.
A couple more. Matt Chapman traded to Toronto, and the A's got everybody else that was left. What'd you say? A whole lot of prospects? 4 prospects?
Yeah, they got 4 prospects back. Anybody who was left after the Josh Donaldson deal.
After the deal. Yeah. After the Cubs picked up everybody else last.
That's a scary infield, though. You've got Matt Chapman, Vlad Guerrero, you've got Bo Bichette. That's a good infield.
Yeah, it really is.
And you know what? So the Blue Jays also picked up Yusei Kikuchi. He pitched for the Mariners last year. And I thought it was so funny. A lot of people were already crowning the Blue Jays as AL champs, saying, oh, this team, just pencil them in for the World Series.
Yeah, for sure.
Kikuchi's going to be a really good pitcher for them if they go with a 6-man rotation. He struggled with the 5-man, just so you know, Toronto fans. So beware of that. But that infield, though, is unreal again.
Unreal. Yeah, it's really good. And then the Mariners trade for Jesse Winker and
Eugenio
Suarez. Yeah, thank you. Justin Dunn, Brandon Williamson, and Jake Fraley are gone, baby.
They're gone. So I know on like face value, this isn't a big deal, but Jesse Winker has done great things the last 3 or 4 years. He has actually hit more home runs than just about every outfielder the last 4 years. So he's one of those sneaky under the radar guys. I saw a stat. You'll have to trust me on that, Brig.
I'm trusting you.
And he's also had a higher batting average than most outfielders during that time too. In his debut with the Mariners, I think he hit a double off the wall and drove in 2 runs this last week in spring training. So I'm excited about Jesse Winker. Suarez, a little bit more, I don't know, kind of him and Han on that because I'm a big Abraham Toro fan. I was hoping to see him at third base, but I think it's going to be Suarez.
I hate to break it to you, buddy, but it's pronounced debut, not debut.
Well, that's a debut.
That's a debut. It's up for debut is what it is. Okay, Nelson Cruz. Lastly, Nelson Cruz is in Washington now, where he will hit home runs and make jokes.
As their universal DH.
That's exactly what he's going to do. This is going to save the latter part of his career. We're very excited for him. And
the dude's 42.
I know. You remember Mr. Baseball when old mustache himself went to Japan to play baseball?
Tom Selleck?
Yeah, thank you. And he's as old as Tom Selleck looked in that movie. It's like, why are you still playing baseball?
Well, and honestly, he's as old as we all thought Crash Davis was when we first watched Bull Durham.
There you go. Ooh, that's way better. Dang, you're good at this. Boy, if you give Brad a chance to bring up Crash Davis, you will not be disappointed. First of all, he will, and second of all, it's always good. It's always good. He spends a lot of time thinking about Crash Davis. Okay, so
you're right.
Who's left on the
break? Let's just finish up with who's left on the market.
All right, who's left on the market? We got some pitchers and some position players. Going through pitchers first. Sergio Romo, right-hander. Brett Anderson, left-hander. Tony Watson's a left-hander. Hunter Strickland's a right-hander. Richard Rodriguez is a right-hander. And Johnny Cueto still plays baseball. He still throws with his right hand, too. That's pretty exciting. Position players, Kevin Pillar, outfielder. Jed Lowry, infielder. Tommy Pham, outfielder. And Michael Conforto, outfielder. That's who's available. That's who still wants to play baseball.
And Dexter Fowler. Did you see that tweet the other day?
And
Somebody
Dexter
tweeted out
Fowler.
the list, and he quote tweeted with his hand up. They haven't been signed.
There's another couple of names. I should say there's a first name and a last name. That's why there are a couple of names that this person is still a free agent. We still don't talk about him in my house. And please do not sign him unless you can bring him into the AL East so that we can make him look like a fool once again. And boo him every chance we get.
Didn't he retire?
I saw him on a list.
Interesting. So he hasn't
I
filed.
saw him on a list. Maybe he wants to be a universal DH.
I don't know how that would work out for him.
He's like, you know what I'm gonna do now?
I'm surprised you haven't seen more guys come out of retirement. Like, I can go hit.
That's right.
Hit twice a week.
I agree with you.
Give the regular DH a break. But anyway, baseball family, thanks again for joining us. We appreciate your listenership. We always do. And don't forget to hop on the shop. That's 9plusus.com. Go ahead and spell it out, NINEPLUSUS.com. Hop on there. I've got my Pirate shirt on tonight with my United We Fan hat. Brig is wearing baseball things. Which hat do you have on tonight, Brig?
Yagyu.
That's right.
Bears. Boom.
That's right. The Doosan Bears inspired Yagyu hat. This one's in English. I have the one that's in Korean that's inspired by the NC Dinos. They're fantastic hats. Hop on the shop, get yourself something nice. Mother's Day is coming up.
Both are coming up technically, but Mother's Day is very soon.
Yeah.
Yep, and we have lots of great stuff for men and women. It's all unisex. Very exciting. Don't forget to like, subscribe, rate, and review the podcast as well, especially if you're an Apple listener. You can go ahead and leave a rating right on the app. That helps us a lot. Helps us with the algorithm thing that the internet does with the stuff in the socials. So we're very excited to have help in that area. If you have a minute, like, subscribe, rate, and review. You can always jump on baseballtogether.com as well, where you can leave us a voicemail, which is all very exciting. And if you keep it clean, we just might feature it on the podcast one day. The other thing you can do is leave us, send us an email. You can drop us a line. We like snide remarks. Brad always likes to bring that up. He's a glutton for punishment, so that's very cool. I just want constructive feedback, and I also only want you to talk positively about the Yankees. So if you're going to comment, please do so appropriately, and that is all. No, but baseball family, we are grateful to have you. We're excited that baseball is back, and we will catch you next week.